if there's going to be a full video or just a small Camaro update. I'm trying my best to, excuse me, trying my best to get my hands on these parts and get these parts put into the car, but I'll kind of explain where I'm at and what I'm doing. So I have a Griffin radiator on order. It has not come in yet. It was supposed to ship 3 weeks ago, and then they changed the shipping date, and it's coming through Summit Racing, and Summit says that they might have a communication breakdown with the vendors, so my shipping date might not even be accurate. So I'm waiting for the radiator to come in. Really, I kind of want to set that in place, but so I got everything else out. Here's the dipstick. I got to pull the oil pan to drill the pan and install the dipstick and then mount it up high. This is the transmission tunnel brace. This came from UMI Performance, but it's got a really big twist in it. So I'm gonna have to cut this and retwist it, re-weld it, and repaint this piece to be able to make it work. UMI never got back to me and never supplied me with a good part, and so I own it now. We've got the Dakota lithium battery with the battery box. We're gonna run the battery box back here in the trunk. And to go in conjunction with it, I've got the relocation wiring, and then I also have the battery cutoff. So we're going to do an external battery cutoff. There's the plates for it. So I should be able to start kind of running that, but as you can see, until I kind of get the rest of the canisters in place, it's kind of hard to run these wires back to wherever they're going to go to. So I'm a little hung there. I've got the oil system, the oil cooling system. I've got all the components for it. So we needed to replace the one that we had. So this goes on the bottom of the oil pan and allows you to run what's called AN fittings out of here. The one that I had before didn't have the AN fitting provision. It had an oil filter provision and a sensor for the oil temperature, but the client decided he wanted to run external oil cooler in this rig. So I had to exchange that one for one that's got the AN line fittings. So this car, it never came with an oil cooling system from the factory. And now, because we're going to install one, you've got to run a thermostat for the oil. So the reason you got to run a thermostat for the oil is the same reason you got to run a thermostat for your coolant. The engine's designed to run with warm oil, with hot oil in it, but you don't want to exceed the recommended temperature of that oil. So what we need to do is we need to stop the oil from flowing so that it can build up temperature, so that it runs at its optimum temperature as far as the lubrication is concerned. So we have to run thermostat. So here's my thermostat. So we come in from the cooler, we'll go the other way. We come in from the engine, we go out to the cooler, back through the cooler, in from the cooler, through the thermostat, and then back to the engine. That way we can stop the flow of the oil and warm it up, like I said, and then once it's warm enough, this thermostat will open and allow the oil to go through it and keep it cool. Okay. The other part of this equation is the filter. So we have to run a remote filter now to be able to run the remote oil cooler. You can run a single filter or a dual filter. The pricing difference between the brackets was only about 20-30 bucks. So we're going to run a nice dual filter. So you've got 2 oil filters to filter out any contaminant in this rig. It's got a nice billet mount on the back of it, so we'll be able to mount this up in the car and then run our AN line fittings to it and from it. The actual oil cooling radiator is right here. So this one's a unit with a fan on it, so that way if it warms up we can control the fan. Here's the AN line fittings for it. So this is -12. The filters are -10, and a lot of the other stuff is -10. So I got to go -10 to -12 and do some adapting. So basically we're going to go from the engine to the thermostat, from the thermostat to the cooler, from the cooler back to the thermostat, and back into the engine. The last piece of this equation, the temperature control switch for the fan on the oil cooler. So on the other side of this spectrum, we want this to run warm enough, but not too warm. So if we open the thermostat, oil starts pumping through the system, but the cooler alone can't cool the oil back to its optimum temperature. We need a fan to be able to cool that oil off for us. We don't need the fan to run all the time because it would cool the oil off too much and close our thermostat. So what we got to do is we got to put a switch in to tell the fan when to turn on. So our oil cooler turns on at 180. The thermostat opens at 165. So this oil system will run consistently between 165 degrees and 180 degrees. It might see 185, maybe even 190, but with this fan and this cooler, it's gonna come down real quick. So you're never gonna see a 200 degree oil temperature. So there's kind of the rundown on the oil cooling system, and oil filter and remote filters. We have a carbon fiber hood on order from Extreme Dimensions. We don't have an official shipping date yet, but it's going to be a couple of months probably before we see it. They literally listened to my story, got on their order, got on their computer, and tried to steal somebody else's hood to make this happen for us. And he got on there and said, I don't have another one in the system. You're the only one that's got one on order, and I only have 2 coming in. The soonest one to come in, I think, is going to look like the end of October, maybe November. I'll do what I can to try to rob one for you, but that's all we got in the entire world. So maybe we'll see the hood at the end of October, and then we can put the flappy paddles on it and put some body and paint on it. So back to the radiator. I ordered some Mishimoto hoses for it, so it's got red Mishimoto hoses to match our red and black and silver theme that we got going on. These are the rear 2nd gen CTSV calipers. These will get painted red to match the C6 6 pots. I'll talk to the customer and see if he wants the Corvette to go away. I originally intended on making the Corvette go away, but it kind of made him smile when he was in here last time seeing the Corvette on it. So he might want that. I can put Corvette on this. We can do whatever. So, but those are intended to go red so that they match what we got going on here. And I've got drilled and slotted rotors. They're not from the same manufacturer, but I did my best to match everything up so that way all of our details are matching each other. The amount of time that I've had to put in to make all of these parts kind of jive and go in conjunction with each other has been unprecedented. I've never had my hands around something that was this complex before, and even though they say they go in conjunction with each other, like I'll give you an example. The client especially requested so I got these MSD coils, so we're gonna bump up the heat on the coils. Gwendolyn, no. Thank you, babe, but no, not right now. I will help you. Okay. So we got the hot coils for it. And because of all the work that we had done to the motor, one of the special requests the client had asked is he wanted polished valve covers to match the ceramic coated headers. He requested the ceramic coated headers because that's the look that he wanted down in here. So the red and the black, that was my call. But the specific statement was we don't want any signatures in here. We don't want any writing, we don't etching. We just want the pure, nice, clean valve cover, okay? So I spent, I think 3.5 hours on the computer over 2 days going through valve covers for LS motors. This is an LS1. All LS valve covers are the same, right? Okay. So I did that whole pain, and then I ordered them, and then I waited. They're Holley covers. They're designed for the Camaro 2002 SS Camaro. They're supposed to go right in conjunction with everything else. We put it all together, and I can bolt this one here, and that one is that far off. because apparently there's 3 different versions of LS coil pack for the Camaro. Unbeknownst to me, didn't know that. Now here we are. So those, after 4 hours of research, those are the only valve covers in the entire world that are polished, ceramic coated, and have no signatures in them. So I have to run those. The coils have already been taken out of the box, so I have to run these. So now I got to figure out how to make a custom little bracket down here to get these coils to match all on there. So that way I don't have to try to send some of these parts back or beg the vendors to take them back, or eat the cost of the part, or pass the cost of them buying another part along to the customer. So I'm going to figure out how to make all these work. This is kind of the custom part of putting these cars together, is that, well, I'm just going to have to figure out what to do. So we'll get the coils in there. These were the original mounts, but you know, they were designed for something completely different, so those won't work either. Yeah. We've got our braided hoses for all of our brakes. Those are ready to pretty much just bolt on. I have my custom backing plates for these rear calipers. Those are sitting in the car, so as soon as I lift this thing back up on the lift, I can pull the wheels and tires off and finish up brakes. This is our billet clutch reservoir, so it'll go back in here like that. Just gotta throw that in real quick. Here's the electric water pump and the polished swivel neck to go with it. So this is polished water pump, polished swivel neck, and then that's gonna go on the front of this engine. Let's see if I can safely pick this bad mamma jamma up. And this one is gonna go right there on the front of that engine. Okay. There's that. Now you guys might have picked it up and might have been wondering what the heck that little thing is sitting down over there. I put on the parts estimate power steering pump / covert ops. So here's the skinny on it. This is a Volvo electric power steering pump, and we're gonna run that sucker right back in here with the battery. We'll put some more weight over the rear end. We'll take some componentry out of the engine compartment. We'll run the wiring back here in the back, and then the ultimate goal is that when this thing is done, the only live pulleys that we'll have on the front of this engine to be ran by the crankshaft will be the air conditioner, because yes, we're keeping the air conditioner and creature comforts, and the alternator, so that we can spin some juice back into the battery. That's the only thing that you're going to see this crank have to spin up on this motor. Power steering is going to go to the back, no smog pump, and water pump's going electric. Bada boomski. Oh, we've got a double din stereo with extra switches. I know that the customer is going to run a double din stereo in the long run, and we also needed some more switches up in here to run some extra componentry, so I went ahead and got that. It came from the same company as the front splitter. So the front splitter's here, and then here's the gauge pods. So this goes in the top of where the vents are, and it only partially blocks off your vents and then gives you 2 gauge pods. And the customer had talked about adding some gauge pods in, so I wanted to get that, get the double din stereo, and it came with the wiring harness. He may have the stereo shop do that, but at least it's there and ready. And then the front splitter came from Mag Performance, and it's called the Q splitter. So this splitter kind of assembles like this, and then these pieces can move like this on the car and make different designs depending on how aggressive you want the splitter, how you want the front body line to look, etc, etc, etc. So we'll see that little splitter sticking off on the front of it, and that's about all the aero we're going to see. We are going to gap these fenders a little bit And I've got a plan to roll these and modify back here so that way we can get this fender out over the tire. I'm gonna roll these back here just slightly. I've got the roller here. Adjust it, set it all down, and start going on some of this stuff. So I'm gonna try and get some of it mounted. I'll get the AN lines kind of measured out, and then I'll have to order those, the AN lines and fittings. Then once the radiator comes in, we'll be able to drop the radiator in place and then start kind of hooking wiring and plumbing and that kind of thing up. Yeah, it's kind of one of those start stop projects, and you know, I try not to waste my time and spin my wheels on stuff when I know I don't have everything I need to get the thing done anyway. So yeah. Anyway, there's the Camaro project. My stuff didn't work for the Buick, and I am in good shape on the El Camino. Those parts are all ready to move to the paint shop. I tried to adjust the alignment on my Honda this morning and found $400 worth of parts that I need to buy for it, so it's going to go back outside till I have time to work on it. And I'm going to try and chip away on this Camaro a little bit, get some stuff done to it, and then we'll be back over to the paint shop, try and get this El Camino put in paint. So, anyway, appreciate you guys. It's been kind of a long, rough road over the last couple of weeks, but I thank you so much for being here and keeping up with me. So, anyway, hair's a mess, I'm a mess, shop looks good, projects look good, so I hope that's what counts. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for me, and we'll see you on the next one, guys. Appreciate you.